were deceived. And now your republic shall fall.
Judging by the thumbnail, we must be playing Star Wars: The Old Republic, so this is going to be a tall glass. Not all bad, but, you know, it is Star Wars: The Old Republic. So, Star Wars: The Old Republic, this is the next MMO on my journey that I used to play a lot, I was active in, and then I kind of fell off. So this series overall is just a boots on the ground. What happened to, you know, these games? This is an MMO series that I'm doing, that I cover. And so the first one was Lord of the Rings Online, kind of backtracked to Guild Wars because it was kind of an MMO, not really. And so after Lord of the Rings Online, when I kind of fell off of that, and then it was Star Wars: The Old Republic, which I was in the beta, and then I was there at launch. Now Star Wars: The Old Republic is a little bit of a weirder case where I was super into it, fell off completely, and then got really back into it again. So it's not just like I started off and then I was addicted and then I just continued and then dropped off. It was more like a... But let me get this out of the way. Every game in this series, every MMO in this series that I cover, they're not dead MMOs. They're not like WildStar. You can still play these games. There's communities. They're still thriving. You know, this is just my own experience that, you know, these games used to have like a, you know, a peak, and then they definitely have all fallen off from, you know, where they used to be like the good times, but still active games, still being developed, except for Guild Wars 1. But they're all still very much alive, and I love these games. You know, I'm not making these videos out of spite. I'm making it because these games generally had a positive impact on my life, and I wouldn't be making videos on them otherwise. You know, and I go back to these games, you know, at least every other year, just to kind of like check up on, you know, things, expansions, updates. Sometimes they stick around for, you know, a couple months for me. Otherwise, you know, just a couple weeks, and then maybe I just drift off again because kind of same old. But I want to get that out of the way because some people think that, you know, I'm making, you know, these videos that I hate. I'm not, because I love these games. So if you were still actively playing these games, you know, just know that, you know, I love these games still. So I'm on your side, essentially. I'm just talking about my own perspective on like why, you know, I drifted away. Now, what this channel is basically just my fantasy channel for YouTube, where I go to talk about all these fantasy games that I love. It's just a, you know, a genre that I really, you know, gravitate towards. We're talking about Star Wars today, so it's kind of like sci-fi and fantasy, but yeah, so if you like more relaxed, you know, vibe type videos, discussions, and reminiscing about older games, you know, put this on in the background. You know, if you feel that you enjoyed it, you know, think about subscribing. It's just a small channel, just kind of like what I do in my free time sometimes. And yeah, let's get into the video. Let's get into Star Wars: The Old Republic. We're first going to start off with my history of the game. We're going to quickly go through, you know, my ebbs and flows with it. Then we're going to break down the pros and the cons, and then ultimately, you know, what the hell happened to this game to kind of, you know, why it's on the back burner for me, you know, overall. So grab a beverage if you are of age, or put me on the background if you're at work, and let's get into this. And down the hatch we go. Now, in the background, I'm going to have just general gameplay, probably just doing some heroic missions. Nothing substantial, just kind of just some background stuff, nothing important to watch. My gameplay is probably ass anyway, so please don't pay attention to it too much. Star Wars: The Old Republic. Now, when this game was being looked at and you're getting like trailers and stuff of like, you know, the different classes, they were pretty fucking awesome. It looked really good. It looked very impactful. People were breaking down for like a Jedi and stuff, like the different movements with like the lightsaber and shit, and yeah, it just kind of looked like this, you know, kind of evolution of the tab target system. Now, in reality, no, it wasn't anything like that. It was actually just very traditional tab target MMO combat, but it did it well enough, pretty good. And so I was there at launch. I picked a Jedi Knight, and that's what I played through all the way till, you know, max level, and finished up my character story. Each class, each character had their own story that they played through. So yeah, my first one was a Jedi Knight. voiced by Solid Snake, so you really couldn't go wrong with it. And I'm a big fan of Obi-Wan, so really it was a match made in heaven for me as far as just enjoying the gameplay experience. Jedi Knight story overall, it's pretty fucking good, honestly. It's a traditional Star Wars fantasy. If you haven't played this game, or maybe you didn't do the Jedi Knight story, I highly recommend it. It's very good. It's very I would say memorable in moments. Pacing wise, as an MMO, so it's really kind of hard to judge how the pacing is, but overall the story and the moment to moment, it's good. It's really good. Yeah, I played till launch, got to the end game. After my Jedi Knight, I rolled a bounty hunter and I did that one. Obviously, I'm a huge Mandalorian fan. I got the helmet back there and I got the poster right above my thing here. But rolled a bounty hunter, so I had both the Empire side, and then my knight was obviously Republic. So I got to experience both communities, because unfortunately the community in this game was split between Empire and Republic. So you played with just your faction, except for in PvP. They would later fix that, but at launch, yes, you had to go one or the other. And so once you're finished with your story, once you get into the end game, it was kind of a mess. I don't know if you guys tried to do like open world PvP, but that was a shit show. And so after I did, so I just went back to just leveling alts, making other characters and experiencing the story. So I did like, the Bounty Hunter, the first one. I then jumped to Smuggler. I went to Sith Warrior. Talk about that later. And then, yeah, after that, I just kind of like fell off. The next expansion was, or I guess the first expansion was Rise of the Hutt Cartel. And I got to tell you, I couldn't give two shits about this expansion. Nothing about this expansion was exciting. Did they add any new features? I hard passed on this one, and I actually just fell off the game completely. So yeah, Rise of the Hutt Cartel, I skipped completely, didn't touch it. I eventually would have to go through it to get to the later stories, but this one, even though I've now gone and played through it, completely forgettable. It was bad. I don't know what the fuck they were doing, and they were just still trying to find their footing. And I guess this was the first growing pains, but Rise of the Hutt Cartel didn't do much of. We then move into, I don't remember what happened first. Was it Galactic Strongholds or was it the Starfighter update? These were pretty cool. The housing system in SWTOR is actually really good. And we'll talk about that in the pros, but that's what that update brought. And then we got Galactic Starfighter, which you could, get your own like starfighter and do PvP that way. Didn't really get too much into this because it may be different now, but it just seemed like they tried to make it too much of a long progression thing. Instead of they should have just made it a fun, simple, like arcade mode. But you guys tell me your experience. I just felt like whenever I played it, either it took forever to find cues, or I would just die immediately all the time. Maybe I sucked at it. I don't know. That update kind of bounced off that one real quick. Now the next time I would get really into SWTOR was it the Shadows of Revan? I'm gonna name check that real quick. Yeah, I was fucking right. It was Shadows of Revan. This one really got me excited. This is where I feel like they took a step back and they're like, okay, what are we going to do for the story? They really went back to Knights of the Old Republic and basically kind of fan servicey. I did read that book, by the way, the book that came out before SWTOR, where it was just Revan and kind of explained how he went from Knights of the Old Republic to SWTOR. So I did read that book. Kind of, it was a pretty good book. We'll talk, I guess, a little bit on that too, because some of the things that went from the book to translate to the game, it didn't really work for me, but oh well. Anyways, Shadows of Revan, this was a really good expansion for me. I really like the story. I did it multiple times. I thought the maps that they did were really well designed and I guess compact and didn't waste too much space. We're going to get to the maps later, but just know that this expansion really was a big step forward for me in my enjoyment of the game, because I went through this expansion story multiple times. Because at this point I had my Jedi Knight, my Bounty Hunter, my Sith Warrior, my Trooper, Jedi Counselor, and I had one more. I did do all the classes and stuff. It's just at this point I didn't have all of them. But this really just got me reinvested in the game, and I was just having a good time with it. And then next we move on to the Knights of the Eternal Empire. Is that it? Yeah, next we moved on to the Knights of the Eternal Empire. I'll just say like this Knights series, because you're dealing with this third giant faction that basically takes over the galaxy, both Empire and Republic. So they come like this new big threat that you have to deal with, and they do a time jump, and then they kind of set the game more up as a like truly single player, where the narrative gets super tight. The pacing gets a lot better. You literally just go from mission to mission. There's like zero time wasted, and a lot of time with new companions and stuff. So really good time with the whole Night series. I thought it was really well done, and I was like super invested. Again, I did these stories multiple times over and over again. I really wasn't too interested in the end game. The only end game that I was really interested in was like PvP, and that was like really only during like one of these expansions that I thought, eh. But the story is the main reason why I was sticking around with all this. And then we had Onslaught. Honestly, I can't remember too much about Onslaught. If I'm being honest, I can't say good or bad about it. I just kind of forgettable. Maybe when I look in through the pros and cons, something will come up. But and the next one was Legacy of Sith. That's literally, isn't that the last expansion? I think that's what we're technically currently on. And I've had a good time with this one too. Again, because they've just kind of continued that formula of, this is basically a single player narrative game that happens to have some MMO elements. And if you've seen my previous videos on Lord of the Rings Online, I mentioned that it's one of the reasons why I'm such a fan of Final Fantasy XIV, is because it's a Final Fantasy game first that then happens to have like the MMO around it. So I really like that style of design for MMOs. And again, back to the other video I did, which is Guild Wars, also had a very strong narrative continually from campaign to campaign, and then eventually their only expansion and the mission packs. Anyways, so I really appreciate narrative and storytelling in MMOs. Even though it's supposed to be this massive multiplayer, I feel like I just come from a background of I need a story. I need a reason to be in the world and invested. So that's where we leave the game basically, is during Legacy of the Sith. I did the Mandalorian update. I literally think the Mandalorian story is still going on. And honestly, the updates, those story updates now, there's too few and far between. It just seems like they take forever to come out. But since then, like, yeah, I just jump in for like maybe a month and that's it. But I don't really play, super hardcore anymore. So really that's kind of like the history of the ebb and flow. So, started off really strong with the base game, fell completely off with Rise of the Hutt Cartel. Shadows of Revan, I came back strong through the whole Night series. I was in it, I was having a good time with it, and then kind of tapered off during Onslaught and Legacy of the Sith. Kind of the same thing, just because again the updates were very far apart, and the updates that you did get, the story they weren't super substantial. They were good, but it's just like you could tell the team had been severely downsized to just give out these bite-sized story updates. So with the history of the game and kind of like where I'm coming from, I wasn't a raider, by the way. I did like 3 raids total. I just don't like raids very much, just because of I just don't like failing within like wasting my time. Basically, I hate that. So I'm much more on the casual side, the housing, the solo stuff. Flashpoints are fine. PvP, that's good. So with that out of the way, let's get into the pros of this game. So starting up, biggest pro of this game has to be the voice acting and the storytelling. Yeah, like I said at the beginning, each class, and there's technically there's 8, but really it's 4 classes that are mirrored onto the opposite faction. But there's 8 stories with those different classes. And so each one isn't amazing. My top ones are Jedi Knight, like I mentioned earlier, and then the Sith Warrior. Sith Warrior one is so good because we rarely get stories of being in like the Empire. In this case, it's the Sith Empire, where we actually get to be like the baddie. We get to be the bad guy, and we don't like turn over to the Republic or the good side. No, we just be bad. I guess you could be a little bit light side. I forgot to mention that too. Yeah, in the story, you do have, the light and dark side choices, so you can technically be a good guy. But anyways, Sith Warrior, really good story. And then after that, Bounty Hunter's okay. People really like the Sith Agent one. I don't know. It's fine to me. It was fine. Jedi Counselor, abysmal. Trooper, it's okay. Yeah. But we'll just focus on the top ones, because pros. We're talking about the pros right now. And those stories to me were really good. And I've played through them multiple times just because they're that good. And then once Rise of the Hutt Cartel happens, all the stories basically converge. And then you're just on a straight line. Everybody does the same story. You do deviate sometimes depending on your own story and characters that you do run into. You'll have like unique interactions with, but mostly at the end of the day, it's the same. But that strong narrative continues on even to their last update or whatever. So the story is really good, and the writing and the voice acting all top notch. you know, you can tell that the people who are working on it really do care, even though you can tell obviously they don't have the budget that they used to. Another pro within the story is the companion system. Now at launch, this was pretty grindy because you had to, did you have to gear them up too, or was it just the levels? I don't know. Each companion you had to level up, and that took a lot of time, but you know, it made like you actually spending time with that companion, so you kind of like build, you know, a bond with them. Problem is, what, every class had 5 companions, was it, or 6? I don't know, one of the two. And so that was kind of a detriment later on when, you know, you have one of every class. Maybe you had one of every class. Sometimes you'd have 2 of each one. But just doing that grind over and over again, fuck that shit. No thanks. But the companion stories themselves really, you know, I really enjoyed. And then later on, you get like new companions that everybody gets. And then they kind of keep that companion interaction going on. And it's a real strength of the game. Having that companion system is a real benefit because, you know, a thing in MMOs is you kind of feel lonely. But if you have everybody has like, you know, an AI like companion and stuff, it makes things like kind of feel better, because if you just want to play a healer, then you can just have your companion be a tank or a DPS, so you don't feel bad about being a healer, you know, because traditionally healers usually get the short end of the stick with DPS and kind of like active gameplay because they're mostly, and they're supposed to heal. So companion system, big plus. We like that a lot. Next positive. I'm going to elaborate on this one a little bit more in the cons section because it's kind of a double-edged sword, but the maps. We're going with the positive side. The opening maps, so the intro maps for every class, hands down some of the best intro maps in any MMO. And why do I say that? They're compact. They don't waste any space. They're very thematic, and they're just super enjoyable to like just go around and explore. You can tell they spent a lot of time on the early maps, as they should, because, you know, first impressions. But the early maps are so good. Like, one of my favorite things to do is just to roll a character and then just play through the intro planet. And then it's just you know, delete that character or do another one, just because I enjoy that tight, quick gameplay and really just dense maps so much. So next positive might be a little controversial, and this is technically, I guess, another double-edged sword. But I think PvP in this game is like a lot of fun. I had a great time. I would literally, I mentioned in the Lord of the Rings video, I had a buddy who an elf champion that we used to play that game a lot. He actually came over to SWTOR with me, and we used to just play PvP all night. He still plays the freaking game. But yeah, the PvP, a lot of fun. I don't know if it's just because it's got a, you know, Star Wars coat of paint, but Hutball, you can't mention SWTOR PvP without mentioning Hutball. Either I love Hutball or you fucking hate Hutball. I'm somewhere in the middle. Sometimes it's a lot of fun, depending on how the balance is doing. But Hutball, I think it's a great addition. It's very unique to, I guess, MMO PvP. In my philosophy, or guess what I would say like a good PvP system is it's just fun, you know, nothing like ranked or like hardcore or super balanced, because if you want a super balanced PvP game, don't go to an MMO. You're in the wrong place, you know. It's just, there's too much going on in those games to be actually something, I guess, proud to be competitive with. But if you are one of those people, you know, good for you. Cool. Just kind of slapped you in the face with that one. I apologize. But we're moving on with the positives. The dungeons, flashpoints in this game, a lot of fun. The fact that they're very tight narrative. You get dialogue screens with everybody there, and you roll on you know, the responses and stuff. It's just a really unique interaction. The RP and like immersion in this game, that kind of rolls into another positive. The RP and immersion in this game is pretty outstanding. Character movements are nice and fluid. You know, you can walk, you can do a lot of emotes. The housing system, again, I mentioned it earlier, but the housing system's amazing. A lot of different locations, and it's just, yes, the RP in this game and the immersion, very top notch, very cool. A lot of fun, you know, to invest in. You know, you get a lot of bang for your buck if you really want to immerse your character. A lot of different cosmetics. This game really goes all out in all those facets. And this may be a hot topic, or maybe just nobody gives a shit, but the Starfighter, the on-rails Star Fox minigame, I wish they would have continued that. That was actually a lot of fun. Those first couple of missions, they're nice and short, and then they just start making them longer and really grindy and kind of dumb. I wish they just would have stayed with that, you know, make them short and fun and just keep it what it is. Like, you just log in maybe on a daily if you need experience, and it gives like a chunk of XP. But I wish they would have, like, you know, kept working on those, because I find them really fun. It was like, again, like, MMOs are supposed to be these games that have like games within the game, you know what I mean? And that was one of those, and I consider that a positive because it was there at launch and it was a good time. Real quick, I gotta go back to the RP, because I forgot so much about it. You get your own personal ship that's amazing. The amount of races in this game, like the different, you know, species you can be, really good. I like the character customization in this game. Graphic wise, like the art style that they chose. Sometimes I do really like it, but sometimes I'm like, what's going on here? So it just that honestly just depends on the day, but overall, like you get a lot of customization, and so that's got to be like mentioned as like a big plus in this game. And plus, yeah, they have like Mandalorian inspired stuff, so like I'll probably have some things up on, like you can see my character. Yeah, I'm just cosplaying as a Mandalorian. But the bounty hunter is basically what I would consider my main class now. And then my alt I would consider Jedi Knight. Everything else, I just whenever I feel like doing it, if I even do feel like doing it. But the bounty hunter is the only one that I have that is like up to date or pretty close to up to date. I honestly have no idea. I don't think I'm actually up to date, but it's the closest to up to date. And then the Jedi Knight's behind it. But if anybody cared where I was actually at, which you don't. Unless you're drinking the hard stuff, and then you do care, brother. Oh boy. You can totally tell I like record when the sun's going down, because like you can see like the lighting get lower and lower and lower, and then I gotta turn on the light and fucking shit. Anyways, just if anybody cares about, you know, the back goings on of you know, YouTube life, you know. It's a hobby. I'm just a small piece of grain in the giant sand of things, you know. Drinking my wine, my dogs. She's right over there. I'd show her, but she's taking a nap. We're moving on to cons. All right, one of my biggest cons, and I've got to get this one off my chest right away. So in those main stories, in the base game main story, there's a point where, because it's broken up into your main class from 1 to 50 is broken up into 3 acts. There's a point in Act 1, I think it's right after the capital planet, where the maps start getting huge, and they get so big that you are spending most of your time just traveling from point A, point B, and it's a lot of nothing. It's fine maybe once, but you have to do that map after map after map after map. It is so annoying. I don't know. I know what they were thinking. When they're developing this game, people loved, you know, in the press and marketing to say, oh, our maps are huge. Our zones connected. They're bigger than like World of Warcraft. And it's like, they're full of fucking nothing, man. Like, why did you waste your time on this? Man, I wonder how much time they could have cut down if they just would have made each map, that when it's appropriate, to make them as compact as the starting planets. Now, something like Tatooine and Hoth, I totally understand why those would be more barren and more, you know, you just be kind of soaking in the landscape as like you're speeding, you know, you're riding your speeder through the, you know, the desert or, you know, snowstorms or whatever. I get it for those maps. Some like Alderaan, holy shit, dude, that fucking map sucks. It's so bad. Some nice vistas, but man, a lot of nothing. And you know, they realized that. You can tell. Shadows of Revan, that's when they start making the maps smaller and more dense. And then by the Knights, you know, of the Eternal Empire series, they just basically were like, yeah, we're just gonna do really compact maps now. So they got it. They get it. I don't know if that's just because they were downsizing, but they definitely moved towards a map style that I appreciate more and I like, which is just denser with more content, and stop wasting my time with like travel, you know? And continue on, I said I'd come back to this one too, is PvP. Sometimes PvP balance was really bad. It would be a lot of CC, which is crowd control, a lot of stun locking, a lot of your character doing nothing. That is the worst thing in any PvP, in my opinion, is taking the control away from a player and they just can't do anything. And there's definitely spouts and, you know, lengths of time in this game where that was the PvP. I don't honestly know how it is now. Maybe it's fine, but when I was playing during what I think was probably the beginning, that got really annoying, really quick. So I have to throw that one out there, because when I think about SWTOR and PvP, I'm like, man, I really did hate that time when we were just stun locked the entire time. That's part of the reason why I ran Bounty Hunter, because I'm pretty sure they could stun pretty well, or they at least could get out of them. I think smugglers and Imperial agents were the biggest culprits. Same with like Jedi counselors and Inquisitors. So fucking annoying, dude. So annoying. Especially when I first played and I was a Jedi Knight. It was a rough time. It was really rough. You jump in there and then you were just kind of fucked, you know? So you're the Jedi Knights and Sith Warriors. You know what I'm talking about. And I know a lot of you thinking, man, he's not mentioning the store in the cartel market. I am now. The monetization in this game, That cartel market is rough. The way they used to nickel and dime you for the smallest of things. I know they've cut back on it a little bit, but just the fact that they had it in the first place, disgusting. Now, I know the way to play this was you needed a sub. You get a sub, you don't really have any of these barriers. But the fact is that cartel market was still there, and man, they were just pumping out content for that stupid cartel market. And as loot boxes too. The trade-off is the fact that it is a free-to-play game. And one of the things I hate about subscription games is when I just want to log in and see my characters, you can't do it. You know, you can't do it in games like World of Warcraft, and you can't do it in Final Fantasy 14 because you need to pay that sub. So I do appreciate the fact that they do have a free-to-play model, and really you just need to sub once. Nowadays, you need to subscribe once and you get everything. That's amazing. That is amazing. But I'm talking about the cartel market in general. That thing is disgusting. I think it really fucked up the economy. Now, I might be wrong on this, but I think the economy is way out of whack. Last I checked, everything, if you look on the market, everything is just absurdly overpriced in millions and millions and millions. And you know they got that because they would roll loot boxes and then sell them on the marketplace. I don't think you should be able to do that. That was a really bad idea. So it was not a good idea. Probably made them some money, but no, man, the health of the game, the economy, I think is really bad. I don't know what they're doing about it. You guys could tell me. The economy, I remember at one point, probably is still that way. The garbage, it's in the fucking shit, right? The economy's not good. As a new player coming in, what do you even fucking do? You know, I know they had the daily system, which does hand out a lot of, like the daily terminal system. It does hand out like a lot of credits. It's out of control. It's really out of control. So that's definitely a negative. And then I don't know. I'm trying to think of some more cons because what am I fucking thinking? The content release, definitely a problem. If you're an active subscriber, hey, hats off to you. The story updates, they take forever, and what you get is sometimes really small, and so that doesn't feel very good. And so it's hard to argue to be a active subscriber in this game, and that's unfortunate. You kind of feel like this game is running on like a skeleton crew of really passionate people, but they clearly just don't have the budget to have a consistent release cadence. And that's an issue with Lord of the Rings Online as well. A really big issue for Guild Wars 1 because they don't do updates anymore, except maybe once a year on some stupid shit. Definitely an issue with this game is the content updates. And that's unfortunate because, again, I love this game. Going back, what do I really value about these MMOs? I love narratives and I love stories. And this one by far at this point probably does the best at it. And I love RP immersion. And so you have, really immersive housing. You have plenty of cosmetics and like mounts and minions and stuff. Like, this game does it really well. It's just unfortunate that it's kind of just, languishing. Like, it's kind of just dying out, I guess. I don't know. It's sad that it gets like very small updates. I'm glad that they got a new developer because EA, I think, is done with it, or BioWare is. So hopefully they figure out something. They figure out a way to really churn out content quick. I know the engine they're running on kind of old and jank. I don't know if they've ever fixed that. Sometimes combat felt really bad with like latency and lag. But combat in general, I don't count that as a pro or a con because I'm fine with the combat, honestly. It's a good time, especially when you use your heroic ability and then, the music cuts in. It's awesome. It's fucking Star Wars, So I wouldn't put that as a negative. I think the combat's solid enough, and I'm putting pros in the con section. So, I love this fucking game. You can tell. You should be able to tell. That leads the age-old question of what the hell happened to this game? And honestly, it's just the slow content releases. And it kind of feels like you're never going to get anything really game-changing or big coming from SWTOR anymore, which is unfortunate. That's basically why I don't play it actively. I do return to it every now and then because it is a fully fleshed out, Star Wars universe to experience. And it does have that free-to-play model that you can just log in and see your characters. And if you did subscribe, then you get a lot of content to go through. It's held back by its cartel market and monetization. I wish it was a little more barely thought out. A great example, and I'll eventually get to this game, is Guild Wars 2's gem store. I think that's about as fair as it gets. You got to make money, but they don't try to compromise on too much, or the things they do compromise on really don't matter in the game, I guess, too much. I don't know. I don't know why. I'm just more comfortable with Guild Wars 2's shop than SWTOR. Might be because you can earn gems in the game. I don't know. We'll get to that. We'll cross that bridge once we get to that game. So yeah, Star Wars: The Old Republic. This game is always installed on my PC. I have a good time with it whenever I return to it for a story update. I'm very interested on the reception of this video as far as either you're an active player or you used to play, and you know, why are you still playing, or why are you not playing the game anymore? What kind of like put you off with the game? Those are things I'm like interested in, and hearing like people's stories and discussions around the game. So far in this series, everybody has been pretty polite. We've gotten some people that think I like hate on these games. I'm not trying to hate on these games, I'm just trying to give my perspective on why I fell out with them. But overall, I do love every game in this series. So let me know where this one lands with you, if you tried it, if you didn't. If you have not tried this game before, Star Wars: The Old Republic, I highly encourage it. It's a good time the first time through. I'm not gonna beat around the bush. The story, the strong stories, maybe Google what's a really strong story, but the strong stories within this game really do. They're top notch. They sit there with like single player RPGs. That goes to BioWare writing when they actually did good writing, but they continued that on till now. So it's definitely worth checking out if you appreciate narrative. All the other stuff, it might be icing on the cake, or you could just ignore it. So until next time, y'all, if you made it this far, consider subscribing. Again, we're small, relaxed, just vibing channel. Next video is probably going to be Baldur's Gate 3. I've got a build series, my party build series that I need to get to. But next MMO, I think, is Guild Wars 2. Oh no, it's Elder Scrolls Online. So we're going to be getting into that game, and that game actually shares a lot of, I would say, not DNA, but a lot of the same kind of trends that put me off with Star Wars: The Old Republic kind of translate to Elder Scrolls Online as well. I hope to see you guys there, and yeah, see you next time. Peace.